Meeting of the Board of Commissioners, Town of Redton Shores, regular meeting. It's Wednesday, September 13th, 2017 at 6 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mary, call the roll.
Commissioner Drum?
Here.
Commissioner Henderson?
Here.
Commissioner Neal?
Here.
Vice Mayor Carter?
Here.
Mayor Adams?
Here.
Attorney Denhart?
All right, the first order of business is the approval of the minutes, the regular meeting, August 9th, 2017, workshop meeting, August 30th, 2017.
Motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting August 9th, 2017, workshop meeting August 30th, 2017.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, Mary, call the roll.
Commissioner Drum?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Neal?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Capper?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes. Next, ratification of bills for August and September 2017.
I make a motion to ratify the bills for August and September 2017.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, Mary, call the roll.
Commissioner Drum?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Neal?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Capper?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes. Commissioner reports. Quite a weekend, wasn't it? I'd like to thank the volunteers first. It was amazing this morning. It took us probably 4 hours, right, Mary, to empty town hall. Pat Drum, Commissioner Drum, called in his troops today, and it took 30 minutes to load it back. It was insane. So I would like to thank Commissioner Drum for doing that, and also for being here and huffing things around. Thank you.
Had to get done.
The other thing, I would like to thank our staff, Mary Palmer, Tracy, and Tracy, who's not here tonight, or Steve or Brad. And Steve and Brad working outside, it was insane with them. They went home yesterday afternoon. I thought they was going to collapse before they left, but they hung in there. And our biggest problem was sewer. And I've talked sewer for a long time, and a lot of people don't listen to me, but I'm telling you, that was a good scare we had. And if we hadn't been able, and so I think Steve Jordan finally acquired those two pumps, we could have been in serious problem. I had talked to the sheriff personally, along with Mayor Queen, and we had asked the sheriff not to let people back here at 4 o'clock, as they did, but he said he had to do it, so he did, and that's when we went into kind of rush-up mode to get things done. I would like to thank also Commissioner Neal for getting your stuff together, Commissioner Capper, and Commissioner Henderson before the storm. Re-entry passes. You know, we've only advertised those for 3 years. But we issued 400 of them in like 2 days.
Commission in with that one. They were flying all over the place.
And Commissioner Henderson came in and sat down with a trooper, her and Tracy. Tom, please.
Tough.
It's you, Tom.
Oh, tough.
He still does it all. So, the way she stepped in and the way Tracy and the rest of the staff there helping to answer phones and getting things done, it was quite an operation. And then I would like to thank, she's not here tonight, but Fire Chief Burford. It was amazing. I was at the EOC, myself and Commissioner Drum at the EOC during the storm in Seminole, and to watch that operation and watch that woman work, I ended up calling her Superwoman. It was crazy.
She said she slept, but I still don't believe her.
I don't either. But it was quite interesting. On top of all that, I'd like to thank the police department. Thank you, Chief, for being here. I don't think we had any hoodlums around, that was big worry about a lot of people, from a lot of people.
Had a couple close calls. We had one of the citizens turned vigilante, he was throwing the streets with a shotgun and knife. He looked in the error of his ways and he went home.
Okay. Good deal. I mean, yeah. Well, thank you for everything during that storm. I appreciate it. And thank the citizens. Most of them have been, I'd say 99% have been helping as much as they can and what they can. We moved from this point to cleanup, and we have to follow rules to do cleanup. So that means your cuttings and trees that's down and all that stuff, you can cut it, if you can cut them up and get them next to the road and then try and put them in 4 or 5 foot lengths, I think 4 foot they call. But we have to have them all counted by, what's that company?
Well, we have, the monitoring is TerraTech,
TerraTech.
and then the removal, but we also got another email this, later today after we closed. Not only do they have to be out by the street, they have to separate like if there was any damage to buildings, if you have any of that, you have to put that not in with the,
Limbs?
vegetation and all that. You have to separate any, damaged furniture. It's
To be separated.
operation.
We'll be putting this information out,
Yes.
right, in the constant
Absolutely.
contact or Facebook or webpage.
Absolutely.
We'll probably post it on the signs too, right? Hopefully we'll get them in here within the week to do the counting, and then the company that we have contracted with to do the pickup and cleanup is Ash Britt, but what I'm understanding today, they're starting to, because of Houston and everything else happening, they're starting to sub some of this out to, so hopefully if they sub it out, it would be to our local waste management people, if they sub it out, and I don't know yet. We didn't hear back from my end, whether they're sub it out. But what I'm asking to people that's watching, please, what we talked about, separate it, get it out on your property on the side, and separate the limbs, cuttings, and all that from furniture, damage from the building, like I lost all the siding off my west side of my building. However, I don't know where to pick it up because it's down.
Intercoastal.
I think it's all over the place. So, anyway, I'd just like to thank everybody. I think we were extremely, and I don't think, I know, we were extremely lucky. You look down at Marco, you look at Naples, you see picture, and then look at the Keys. It's just unbelievable. I think here it's probably, maybe not, it was probably a Cat 1 when it came through here. And that, you see what a Cat 1 can do. Just imagine if it had been a 3 or a 4. It'd have been unbelievable. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Vice Mayor Capper.
I like to do a little bit what the mayor said, that I'd like to thank all of our fellow commissioners, our staff, Mary, Tracy, Steve, Brad and Steve, for doing a great job. And also, last but not least, thank God for turning that hurricane out for us. That's it.
All right, Commissioner Neal.
Well, I'm in the same as the mayor and the vice mayor. I would like to thank everybody. I mean, all the volunteers, it's unbelievable. We're already cleanup stage. We're moving along. I mean, everybody's got everything. People that don't even talk to each other is working with each other. The storm will bring out, it's the worst thing you can see, but it brings out the best in people. And it always has, and it always will. It's like I say, I'm with this staff. We have an unbelievable staff here. Steve and Brad, I cannot say enough about them. Them boys are wired. They got this sewer system wired down. And the only thing that I think we'll work a little bit in the future, personally, I've learned a whole lot through this storm about how to prepare for the next one. And that's what this is all about. So we'll talk further on this one in the future. That's all I have.
Commissioner Henderson.
Well, I don't have really anything other than I think we did a great job of communicating to our residents between the website, the constant contacts, and the Facebook. We've never had that in the past, and I think if you look at the numbers, I don't know, Mary, have you looked to see? Huge numbers have looked and have had help. There were people, there was a resident looking for information for her mother for the Shore Mariner, and through Facebook was able to get information and felt comfortable, and it's making a difference, so I'm glad we went with it. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Drum.
I got a couple things. PSTA, they're still working to get the special needs folks back, as long as they have power wherever they're going. That was on a 3 o'clock rock call. As far as emergency management, you said everything that I was going to say about the fire department and EOC. I do have, I'm going to ask her to have some sutures at the EOC next time. Save me a trip to the hospital. Other than that, I'd like to thank everybody here too. It worked out well. That EOC, it was a great idea to move over there, I think. It all went very smoothly. So that's all I got.
Yeah, and I think that was the only injury was Commissioner Drum. But we were where there were a lot of paramedics. He was taking care of.
Had my house all, boarded up, cut my hand just before that, right after that, no one was around. So I come into the EOC with it wrapped around with a bag, burnt, the sink dripping blood. I got a problem.
Crazy good.
They took care of it.
Yeah, they did. And we do, I want to add one more thing with the sewer part that right now is steady and has been taken care of. We're just keeping our fingers crossed for the next 20 hours or so. We went back to the old school today and we're hand delivering notices to the residents about limited water use. We went back to putting it on a piece of paper and knocking on doors and putting it in. And there was a bunch of volunteers and commissioners jumped into that. You can thank me, I did your district. But anyway.
You live there.
Oh, yeah. It was an all-out effort by everybody and appreciate that. All right, moving on. Gulf Boulevard Advanced Traffic Management Systems. We have Robert Metter here today from Pinellas County Transportation. Robert. And if you look in your book, you have this. Everybody has this. You can go through it with Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commission. I appreciate your allowing me to come and speak on such short notice. I'm not sure how much you all know about the Gulf Boulevard ATMS improvements that the county is planning right now. We made a presentation to the Big C back in April of 2016 to try and get that information out and let everyone know what we were doing with this important project. What I was going to do was to briefly go through this presentation. It's the same one that I made at the Big C last year. Don't want to drag it on and take more of your time, but just to make sure that everyone is familiar with the project and understands what the intent of the project is, I just wanted to run through that real quick. So on page 3, the ITS and ATMS, what does that mean? ITS is Intelligent Transportation Systems, and that is really the integration of advanced communication technologies, what I've got highlighted in red there. And that's really the crux of it. It is a matter of being able to communicate from our traffic management center, which is at the intersection of US 19 and Drew Street, in our emergency response building. We have a video wall there that you'll see in the back of the presentation that allows us to see all the CCTV cameras on the roadways that we currently have in place, monitor the traffic that's going on, and communicate with the traffic. And that leads us down to the ATMS, Advanced Traffic Management System. That is our ability to improve traffic flow through the use of monitoring traffic and being able to get communication out to the motorists through the dynamic message signs that we put up, and also use real-time traffic information to be able to change the traffic signals timing if we need to do that. We don't push a button and it automatically changes, but we can adjust the timing if need be from our traffic management center. So the ITS infrastructure components on page 4, that's really looking at arterial management, freeway management, transit management, incident management, and going down through the list there. Important is traveler information management, the collection of data, and emergency management. A lot of what we saw going on the past few days. Examples of ATMS on the next sheet there, just some highlights of what those devices are, what you'll see along the roadways as you travel within Pinellas County. You'll see a dynamic message sign up in the top right corner. In the top center, that's a CCTV camera on an existing, what we call strain pole, signal pole. Then over on the top left, that is a video detection camera that is placed at the intersection, and that reads the traffic through video as it approaches the intersection. And that tells the signal controller down in the bottom left of that sheet to change traffic. That you've got traffic at that intersection and you need to cycle through the signals. So the project funding schedule on page 6, this is what we call a TRIP project, Transportation Regional Incentive Program. That is a funding program through the Florida Department of Transportation where they fund 50% of the design and construction costs. The other 50% is funded by the local option fuel tax, or the 9th cent, what we have coined that as, that is collected by the county. The funding for this program started in 2014. The design started in 2015. We anticipated construction to begin in 2017, earlier this year, but we had a few issues that we had to address. We were originally going to, and on the next page, we were going to use wireless connectivity for this project to get signals from the communication signal, from the mainland over to the barrier islands at each of the causeway and bridge crossing locations. Through the study, the initial design of the project, we determined we could not do that because of the curvature. We couldn't get the alignment of the wireless devices to connect. And so we had to back up and do some environmental work so that we could drill a fiber optic conduit underneath the intercoastal waterway and come up on each side and then have our fiber connections to make our connectivity for communications. Communications, what are they for? They're for the dynamic message signs, the closed circuit television cameras, and the video detection at each of the intersections. So the components for this project on page 8 is arterial management. We're looking at incident management, emergency management, traveler information, and information management, which is the collection of data. Incident and emergency management, that would have been key for this past weekend's events, to be able to get that information out to the Barrier Island residents and visitors to say evacuation is in process. Level A evacuation starts Saturday morning at 6 a.m. and goes through Sunday morning. We would have been able to get that information out to the Barrier Islands through the use of those dynamic message signs. Then with the CCTV cameras, we would have been able to, through the storm, determine if there were any issues with the bridges. If we had a tidal surge, we would have been able to see that and determine if there was any structural damage to any of the crossings. Project limits, if you look on the next page, this project actually goes south of the Pinellas Bayway all the way up to West Bay Drive, just north of there in Bel Air Beach. The project consists of 14 DMS structures, dynamic message signs, 31 CCTV cameras. Some of those are on those signs and not separate camera poles. Then we have 3 water crossings for fiber optic cable, and those are Walsingham Road, Tom Stewart Causeway, and Blind Pass. And those crossings there will give us the connectivity that we need to make those communications work and get the signals back to get the communication signals back to our traffic management center. You see down at the bottom of that sheet, we already have some fiber connections that exist through previous projects, one at Bel Air Beach Causeway, West Bay Drive, and then Park Boulevard. We also have one at Pasadena Avenues, the State Road 694, 66th Street corridor. That project has recently been completed, and Park Boulevard is currently under construction. The intent of this project, pretty much what I've already stated. It's to provide the connectivity of information, CCTV cameras and traffic signals back to our traffic management center. So the rest of this presentation really just shows you on the next page, the planning map, the long-range plan that was done back in 2005 with the Metropolitan Planning Organization, now Forward Pinellas. The red, yellow, and blue and green highlights show you the phases of the ITS network that we have been working through. We haven't worked in accordance with all of those phases because of funding ability to get other projects done. So when you look at the next few pages, I've outlined there where the projects started. We first see State Road 60 and US 19. Then we go from, or continue south on US 19. Then we went to 49th Street, the State Road 611 corridor, McMullen Booth and East Lake. Then from there, Belcher in the northern part of the county, completed State Road 60 to the west there. Then we went to the 586, 584, and 580 corridors, Main Street through Dunedin, Curlew Road, and Tampa Road in the North County area. And we did some North Fiber trunk line improvements, and that provides a ring structure and redundancy in our communication networks. And then we started working on the southern end of the county with State Road 686, or East Bay Drive and West Bay Drive, a South Fiber trunk line through Seminole Boulevard that again provides a redundancy in the communications by looping our fiber optic system. Almerton Road, other portions of US 19, and it goes on. And what we see on a couple sheets over in red is the Gulf Boulevard ATMS project. And that kind of highlights some of the locations in a big 30,000-foot kind of level, looking at installing fiber optic lines across the bridges or across the intercoastal, and then on certain portions of Gulf Boulevard to get us that connectivity to the signs and the cameras that we intend to place out there. So then, going from there, that's just an outline of the projects, and we have a few other projects planned in the future. If you look at sheet 22, special design components for the project, and then flip over to 23. When I said earlier that not all of our CCTV cameras are going to be placed on separate poles, this is one thing that our consultant has proposed to us. We've looked at this particular instance in other projects, and it's a pretty good idea to limit the amount of infrastructure that we have out there being camera poles, CCTV camera poles. This is a CCTV camera that is fixed to the DMS sign, the dynamic message sign, that structure, so that we can see that sign when we post a message. That way we know that the sign is working and we know that the message is spelled correctly. So we want to make sure of those two things, that the communication is accurate. So that limits the amount of infrastructure that we have as a part of the project. And if you flip over to the next page, this is an example of a dynamic message sign and structure that we're designing for this project. We haven't settled on the artistic features that we were proposing to put out there, but understanding that the Gulf Beach community is undergrounding power lines, looking at beautification efforts through the Gulf Boulevard Improvement Program that the county is partially funding. We wanted to stay in tune with that, and we wanted to keep everything not looking industrial, but having some artistic value to it as well. This is not something that we have ever done on any of our other devices throughout the county. So it is special to Gulf Boulevard. And then you see on the next page another rendering of actually a sea turtle. And then on the last page, questions or comments, that is our traffic management center. Have any of you ever visited our traffic management center? if you would like to go sometime, we would love to give you a tour of what our capabilities are and what that is all about, and show you what the devices can actually do for us. But what you're looking at there is the technician's work center, right there in front with the monitors and the keyboard at that desk, and then you see the video wall in front of them. And they can view the cameras. They can pull up cameras from all over the county, wherever we have them placed at intersections along various segments of the corridors in the county, and you can see what's going on with the traffic flow. You can spin those cameras around in all quadrants and see what the traffic flow is actually doing. So with that, as a sort of a background to the project, the reason I'm here tonight is to request an easement from the town. What we have been doing, the DMS sign that is placed south, and this is the document that I'll refer to now that I handed out earlier. The dynamic message sign that would be placed south of Park Boulevard in order to notify motorists of what's happening north of them was originally to be located in or on the Duke property. There's a parcel that Duke Power owns north of our site here tonight, that we were going to look at putting that on, because it would not impact anyone, and there was right-of-way there. But looking at that further, we did have to get some right-of-way from them, or an easement from them. When we approached them, their property is actually up for sale, and it is under well, I don't know that it's under contract, but it is under negotiation for purchase now. So Duke said, no way. We're not gonna enter anything at this point. So they didn't want to take a chance on jeopardizing the sale for whatever that property is going to be. We looked at another location just south of there. If you're traveling north, there is a static sign structure in front of a set of condos that has a big stationary sign that says State Road 694, Park Boulevard, to Seminole. That does not lend well for us to utilize. There is another sign north of us that we are able to utilize that location. We've got to replace that foundation and that structure, but we can take that sign off of that structure and apply it to what we're doing with our design. This one we cannot. We've looked at that because of utilities in the area. Our foundation is bigger for the sign structure that we have to put in. The sign is not that much larger, but the foundation is. But we cannot hang that size of a static sign along with our dynamic message sign. So that would not work for us. So looking at those two options, we came back down to Del Bello Park, looking at approaching the town to see if we could get an easement to place a sign on the north end of that park. And so if you flip over to the next page of this handout, that is sort of a close-up of the Del Bello Park property. Now, talking with Mayor Adams before the meeting, I understand that Duke is looking for an easement on that same park property for...
I believe that's right. Steve, are they looking for one there or no?
No, it's not on the maps that he gave us.
Okay.
Oh, so that's not the case?
not the issue.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I was gonna do that yesterday, but something happened.
You're a little busy.
You know, Mayor, if I may, Mary reminded me that the FCT funding for the land and the park may require us to get like a permission through the state because, just like why we can't rent it and do those kinds of things.
Del Bello Park was purchased with a major 500,000, I think, grant from Florida Communities Trust.
Okay.
And so it's subject to a lot of conditions, and they have to approve anything and everything that goes in there.
Okay, understood. The county has a number of parks that acquired the same way.
I don't think it'd be a problem, but it's a process.
Okay, understood. So that's, as far as the location, we are flexible still. I understood that we may work in tandem with Duke, but if that's not the case, so be it, but we can still be flexible on the location of that sign that we would like to put in there. What we had picked out was the north end. That gets us closer to Park Boulevard. We don't want to be too far away, so that gets us a little bit closer.
How wide of an easement do you need?
If you look at the plan sheet here, you'll see a 6-foot wide easement outside of the existing Gulf Boulevard right-of-way, and that easement is 22 feet long. And that would cover the foundation, the sign, and then the appurtenances for that. There's got to be a controller cabinet with the sign that has the communication wiring in it and the controller for the sign.
And it's all underground, the wiring.
It is all underground. Everything is underground, nothing is aerial.
Just the structure,
Excuse me?
just the structure, it'll be there.
Just the structure, and that cabinet will be there. Next to that will be some pull boxes, flush with the ground. Same thing that you see at intersections where we provide all the cabling to a point and then take it into the mast arm and the traffic controller.
It's been a long time since I've been in real estate, but what about having a domain? Can't you take something like that a lot to Duke has? You gotta pay for it, I realize. Yeah.
Well, we would have to pay for it, but at the same time, with their being under contract with a purchaser, that just creates a lot of other implications and difficulties. And one thing that we are looking at this stage, like I pointed out at the beginning of the presentation, we were hoping to be under construction at the beginning of this year, or early in this year. That didn't happen because of the environmental issues that we had to undertake with going under the intercoastal that we had not anticipated, and then utility conflicts that we've experienced up and down the corridor, and trying to manage those and make adjustments to our locations to try and minimize any impacts to the existing utilities, whether public utilities or private. We try to limit those impacts as much as we possibly can. So in doing that, now we're at the 11th hour. And I apologize for coming to the town at that type of situation, but that's where we are at this point. We're at 100% plans.
Rob, last week when I talked to you on the phone.
A couple weeks ago, yes, sir.
Couple weeks. And it'd be a 6-foot back from the right-of-way, 22 feet.
22 feet long, yes, sir.
Well, I think for what we're getting for this is
Yeah.
neat, man. This is good, a good
Yeah.
thing.
I wonder if I could trade something with the county.
A little barter deal there?
Three-phase generators?
I was thinking more on the county park down there, trading some, we're like at a 60-40 split now, going like a 50-50, and they take care of the trimming the trees down there instead of us. It's just running through my head.
It's not a bad deal.
That's something that I can certainly take back and talk to our urban forestry group and see if that's possible.
Okay.
Where else are you putting these?
These are going both north and south of all of the water crossings, all of the bridges and causeways.
So I'm just concerned it's gonna look like I-75 or something.
No, and I understand.
Make sure we don't we have like rules against LED things within our town like this? I mean, we do.
Yeah, we have some signage, I think it gets into the jurisdiction area though, and then DOT right away.
Yeah.
But if they're asking us, then that's,
There is a permit process for DOT that I'm sure the county has to follow.
Correct,
and we'd be able to use this,
correct.
we would be able to use this for our own resident kind of, for Hurricane Irma and stuff like that, evacuation routes and different things like that.
Well, yes and no. The county would utilize it. The county would post messages, and through federal requirements and state requirements, there is a menu of messages, basically. Certain things that can be posted on these signs. We can't post, just any kind of notice.
Well, I wouldn't expect town
It's-
picnic this weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
But with that, yes, that is exactly what it would be used for. Now, as you drive up and down various roadways, you'll see safety messages amber alerts, silver alerts, those types of things. Now, those can be posted as well. Whether we post those out here, that hasn't really been determined, if that's necessary. But what it would be used for is, we even get into some event management. That's something that we'll be looking at in a future project in the city of St. Pete. When there are major events, and I mean major events, and we need to notify the motorists of traffic delays, that type of thing, then we can post those types of messages. But generally, it's for safety messages, for, like I say, the alerts, amber alerts, silver alerts, those types of things. Safety messages in terms of click it or ticket, and don't drive drunk, those types of things. And then for evacuations, if any of the bridge crossings have to be closed for one reason or another, whether the drawbridges or whether there's a structural deficiency in one of the crossings, we can post that so that the motorists know as they're traveling north or south, go to the next crossing, go to the next bridge, and access it there.
More or less a safety thing.
Exactly. And that really is the crux of the ITS and ATMS program, is for safety and traffic flow. You get into improved traffic flow when you have the ability to reroute traffic, to warn motorists that something's going on ahead, you might want to take another road. We don't direct them to another roadway, but we warn them of what's coming up ahead so they can make their own decision and go and take a different route.
How about make a posting of, which we run into quite a bit, is bridge closing, bridge jammed up.
Exactly, exactly.
That would help a lot.
Commissioner Drum, you have any questions?
No.
Any more, Commissioner Henderson?
Is there some place we could like see this? Or is this just,
That you won't see
Something
anywhere
similar?
until we put them down here, and there are none across the state. Now, what you can do is along State Road 66, State Road 693, 66th Street, we have those signs there. We have them on Belcher Road up north in the county. We have them along East Bay Drive, State Road 60, Gulf to Bay Boulevard, and you can see what they look like there. State Road 580 out in the Oldsmar area, we have them there as well. Now, one thing that I would caution you is that those signs, except for the ones on North Belcher, those signs that you will see are large. They are either 15.5 foot wide or 15.5 foot long by about 6 foot high, or they are 20.5 feet long by about 7 feet high. Now, what we're proposing on this project is much smaller, and it would be about a 5 foot by 13 foot 3-inch sign, I think is what the actual dimension is. So we're looking at shrinking it down so that it does not look like a freeway. That is not what we want to project out here. We simply want to be able to communicate with the motorists and monitor traffic through the CCTV cameras as well. So when you look at those signs, kind of gauge the size as well.
Commissioner Neal, you have any further questions?
I like the fish and the turtle, it looks nice.
Okay? All right.
Vice Mayor Kaplan?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, I'd like somebody to make a motion that, and I, talking to them, that they can work with us and move that easement any north-south on the Bellow, whatever we have to follow there, but I was serious about that deal. This is going to be part of the motion, I hope. With the negotiation of Constitution Park.
Constitution Park, that's the one you're talking about?
No, I'm
no,
sorry.
County
County
Park.
Park.
The
County Park.
Okay.
County beach access.
County Beach.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
as a parking lot.
We've got to deal with them right now that we collect so much for the parking.
Okay.
It's a 60-40 split. I'd rather it be a 50-50
or we could go
split.
60-40 our way.
And I'd like the tree trimming to be taken over by them instead of us.
Okay, so you're looking at a 50-50 split in the parking fees
Correct.
as well as the tree trimming?
Tree trimming.
Okay. All right. And that I cannot promise, but I
No,
will
I
take
know
that back to the county administrator
I know you can't.
and urban forestry and see what happens.
Is it good?
Approving it with conditions?
Right. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the easement with conditions of the county park parking. Anything else we need in it?
Don't you have to say 50/50 split?
So it's a 50/50 split,
Say on that?
Tree trimming.
and also tree trimming.
So to go ahead and say yes to the easement, as long as the county will say yes to the 50/50 and the tree trimming.
Yes, you got all that?
And that is also subject to the FCT allowance. Okay.
Which means if the county doesn't say yes to that, then you'll have to come back and
We'll have to come back and talk again.
try something else.
All right,
Okay.
got a motion, got a second?
Commissioner, you have the
Got a motion and a second, any further discussion?
No, I'd really like to take the opportunity to actually go and look at one of these before I.
they're all over.
Well, I mean,
They're all over the
like, what you're
place.
talking about exactly for us with the smaller one, there's nobody that has the smaller one at all.
There is one smaller one, but again, it's not representative. It's in the city of Clearwater on alternate 19 at Seminole, but that one is too small for the application because you can't, the wording, the pixel size is so small, the font size rather.
And keep in mind, this is just one sign we're talking about. The rest of them, most of them have already been approved and
Yes, sir.
easements, so.
So it's going to be consistent along Gulf Boulevard?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, there will be no difference, other than maybe the artwork, versus one versus the other, but the sign size, and the sign, and the structure design.
So everybody's going to say yes to this on Gulf Boulevard, doesn't matter. We're not going to be the only town.
No,
It's before every bridge, after, north and south.
yeah, we only need
So-
easements from two municipalities, the Reddington Shores and Madeira Beach, and I'm meeting with Madeira Beach in a couple of weeks.
So Commissioner Henderson, your vote?
If you can't beat them, join them, right? So, yes.
Yes. And
Did we all vote?
I say yes. I did it.
Yes.
We're way ahead of we have a turn.
Yeah, Mary,
Commissioner Deal?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Papper?
yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Now tell them more serious about the tree.
I will absolutely do that.
I see, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're next, move on to financials with Richard Dixon. And Richard, and I want you to know, he's worked hard to get here and get this done. He has no power at his office, and he has no power at his house, so he had to travel somewhere to shave and dress up.
I actually went to another client town, and they let me in, and they had power, so
So you did.
I go there every morning.
You're welcome here.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. This year's report is provided to you. I'm going to try to cover some of the high points. From a financial standpoint, it was a good year. I know the mayor made a comment about sewer fund. That was the only place that we showed an over expenditure, and we'll go over that. From the standpoint of the operating controls, the legal requirements you were in compliance with. The commission's policies and procedures were tested, and you were in compliance with those. And finally, good business practice, because that's the final assertion that's made. Are you doing something that a prudent person would otherwise take the same action, given the same facts and circumstances? We found no exception. The report basically, in all material respects, your assets, liabilities, revenues, and expenditures are fairly stated. There was only, I know it's a 3-page report letter. I can remember when it was just 3 paragraphs on one piece of paper. It was, for those of you that are interested, there was a small change from last year in the 3rd paragraph, and they added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words referencing whether due to fraud or error with respect to the statements being free of material misstatement. So other than that, everything is virtually the same. Once again, I do need to thank Mary and her staff. We were, we get pressure put on us, and it goes down like water. It goes downhill, and it falls at her desk. And she, once again, has come through with the exemplary assistance and certainly knowledge of what's going on. And that's, as you know, in any kind of a system, you do need that administrator, that person that actually says, it's over there, okay, because that's important. We come in, we don't know that. We'll ask questions, which is part of the process, but we do need somebody internally. We ran into that with the Miami job that we're working on. The first question we asked of the administrator, I said, do you have a copy of the actuary's report? And this is a health insurance trust. And she said, what is that? I don't know if you know about the requirements of running an insurance company, but an actuary's report is terribly important. Page 13, this is your statement of net position. This is the full accrual statement of the town. This format was what was identified under GASB 34 as being required, and the requirers were basically the money lenders. They said they could not understand the fund accounting or budget-based data that cities were producing, which is what you follow because that's state law. You have no choice. Was it section 20065 for approval of your budget, which you're going through now for purposes of next year. So in any case, what this does is it captures your fixed assets, your and full accrual data. Well, what does that include? That includes your debt. So that's on your balance sheet. As you know, in your governmental balance sheet, the fixed assets and the debt liabilities are reported separately. But you can see them here on this page that we have the breakdown of the, things like the non-current liabilities, which includes the compensated absences. We don't report those they're a pay-as-you-go in the government side, the budget side. That's how you budget for it. But in this particular instance, we sit down and we find out how much time people have credited. We find out how much time people have used, and the balance becomes the compensated absence that is otherwise out there. And it doesn't become a liability, it doesn't become a payable until the employee uses the time, because at that point, then the town will pay the bill. Moving on, again, the good news, even on the statement of activities, which is page 14, full accrual. On a full accrual basis, we had some $431,000 surplus. That results in many things. Revenues collected more than you had expected, and expenditures paid less than you had budgeted for. So that's the good news. The only glitch in that, on that page 14, you can see our change in the business type activity, which is our sewer fund. We did lose $26,000, and I will point to the schedule that highlights that particular result. Page 15, this is your governmental balance sheet. Governmental funds, your general fund, your capital improvements fund, and what we end up with in this particular case is an increase. And we have an unassigned, under general fund, an unassigned fund balance of $5,055,000. Interestingly enough, the town maintains detailed schedules going back 10 years on demographics and financial results. If you look in the schedule covering your fund balance, which is in the back, starting in 2009, the town has experienced an increase each year. So if we were to graph this, it would be going low to high over the last 9 years. So it's the last reduction occurred between 2008 and 2009. Now, we didn't go back and try to highlight what perhaps caused that, but suffice to say that in the instance, from that time forward, the town has been moving in a positive vein. You're in good financial condition. Page 16, we have our net change in fund balance, and both from the general fund standpoint, we had positive of $448,000, which is, I guess, for those of you who are in the commercial vein, net income. That's what was left after we paid our bills and collected our money, which is, again, reflected in those schedules in the back, that you had another $400,000 increase to that unassigned fund balance, which basically, think of that as your retained earnings. Those are dollars available, they're net assets. The assets are up in the top with respect to receivables and cash. On page 18, we have the budget actual for the general fund. And you can see it includes the original budget and final, if there were any changes as a result of any amendments. The important thing here to look at is the last two columns. You have the actual result, revenues, we were positive. We budgeted to collect $2,300,000. We in fact collected $2,504,000. And there's a detail of which line items did we share in those additional revenues. So we had a positive increase of $192,000 in revenue. That's cash in the bank. Total expenditures, on the other hand, we thought we were going to expend $2,134,000, and we expended $1,914,000 for a $219,000 net reduction in costs. So what that did was increase your bottom line $411,000. That's how we got to the increase in cash and the financial position as far as the fund balance, as far as the town is concerned. A quick comment on that page, sewer enterprise fund, the budget actual, that's where you need to look at that if you zero in on that. And the actual budget versus the actual versus budget, the variance in that particular case, we had positive variance as far as revenues, charges for sales and services. We were at $62,000 to the good. We collected more usage, more billing. Operating expenses on materials and supplies, we were positive. We underspent by $21,000. Our repairs and maintenance were down $18,000. Depreciation, because this is full accrual accounting, we don't budget the depreciation for purposes of the sewer fund, but we add it just to let you know there is a consumption of your assets, okay? And in this particular case, we consumed $37,000 worth. What does that mean? That means at some point in the future, in the next 5 or 10 years, you're going to have to be replacing those assets in order to maintain your billable service. The item that we got nailed on was, of course, the treatment fees. We had budgeted $470,000, and it went to $603,000, which I'm sure you were aware of, and that was the elephant in the room, which caused the loss, although the loss was not terribly significant, $26,000. It's in terms of materiality, it's really not material. It is something for you to be aware of, and I'm sure that, as the mayor commented, you need to watch your sewer fund for a lot of reasons, and this just happens to be one of them. The rest of the report is there for your perusal and use. As I said, we have operating statements, financial trends, and what we refer to as our statistical section in the back. And those tables are very informative, and they give you a history of the town, whether it be your debt capacity, your property tax rates, and so forth, going back 10 years. So if somebody wanted to, if you had a new resident coming in and saying, what is my tax rate, you could point to this and it would tell you what it was and what it has been. And from that standpoint, it was a good year for the town. I'm open to any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Go
Mayor.
home and take care of your stuff you can.
The two pugs and the chihuahua, I got it.
Mayor, we'll need just a motion to accept.
Okay, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't care to, need a motion to accept.
I make a motion to accept.
Motion is second. In discussion? Mayor call the roll.
Commissioner Drum?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Neal?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Capper?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now on to old business, resolution 09-17.
Resolution number 09-17, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Reading, Shores, Florida, pertaining to floodplain management, accepting the recommendation of the town's floodplain management committee as to the adoption of a revised floodplain management plan for the Town of Reading and Shores, adopting such floodplain management plan for the Town of Reading and Shores, providing for an effective date.
I'd like to make a motion to approve adopting the Town of Reddington Shores floodplain management plan.
Second.
Motion and second, in discussion? Hearing none, Mary call the roll.
Commissioner Drum?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Neal?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Capper?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes. Next, first reading ordinance 17-05, banning marijuana, medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities within Reddington Shores.
Ordinance number 17-05, an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Reading, Shores, Florida, pertaining to medical marijuana, providing findings of fact, banning medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities within the corporate limits of the Town of Reading, Shores, Florida, banning all other medical marijuana treatment centers within the corporate limits of the Town of Reading, Shores, Florida, sunsetting Reading Shores Ordinance number 16-02, which enacted a moratorium pertaining to medical marijuana treatment centers in the Town of Reading, Shores, Florida, providing for the inclusion of such ordinance in the Code of the Town of Reading, Shores, Florida, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
I make a motion that we accept ordinance number 1705, banning medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities within Reddington Shores.
Second.
Pass it on second reading.
Do we have public comment?
It's
Before we
it's
vote?
coming up, Tim.
No, before you vote.
We don't vote on this.
We don't vote now.
This is the first reading.
I'll call them public comment.
So this is the first reading, the motion, who's second?
I do. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any public discussion?
Yes.
Told you.
I guess what I would like to say, Tim DuBois, 636 182nd Avenue. I guess I disagree with the town banning this because we have commercial buildings in town that sit vacant for long periods of time, and if the law is allowing these in the state, I'm not sure why the town would want to dissuade businesses from coming into the town and taking advantage of commercial property in this town that, in a lot of cases, it's underutilized. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Mary call the roll.
Commissioner Drum?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Neal?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Capper?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes. On the new business, resolution 10-17, increasing variance fees and appeal fees.
Resolution number 10-17, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Reading, Shores, Florida, adopting a revised fee schedule for certain applications made to the town's Planning and Zoning Board, Special Magistrate, or Town Commission, providing an effective date.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 1017, increasing variance fees and appeal fees.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
No, I saw that you did add something on the bottom about,
I added two things at the bottom that were not currently in your ordinance. One, and it changed the variance fee at the top, just a flat fee, no matter how many variances. And I sent a memo to you that indicated that in reviewing it, there was not a fee in your current schedule for the appeal of a decision of an administrative official. That happens once every 5 years. It doesn't really happen very often, but there probably should be a fee for it because it does take staff time to work up the presentation. And also for appeals as may be allowed to the town commission. and those would be appeals from decisions of the special magistrate or planning and zoning commission. And again, and that, $250 fee and a $200 fee, they're relatively minor. I don't think they would be a thing to dissuade somebody, but it seemed appropriate to have those in there. So if you
Agree.
they're in there the way it's presented to you. If you agree, you can go ahead and pass it, or if you want to delete any of them, if you want to hurt my feelings.
No, I think it's a
So
great
you
idea.
didn't have fees for those.
Okay, I sent everybody to look at that. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mayor, call the roll.
Commissioner Drum?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Neal?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Papa?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes. Next is a proclamation of Falls, which is a good proclamation, seeing what happened. Falls Prevention Awareness Day. That means falling down, I guess, so. All right, be aware, there's a lot of stuff out there. Public comments.
Lelanders resident. I can only speak for my district. I'm sure all the commissioners were doing the same thing. But I want to go on record of thanking you, Mayor, and Commissioner Drum for all the time you spent at our district during this trying time. I just got back today, Mayor and her staff, but I really want to thank Steve for his diligence, his professionalism, and everything he's done for our district. I'd also be remiss, Chief, if I didn't mention Officer Larry Maynard, who is not only a police officer, he's part of our community. I think he's a throwback in the best sense of the word. He knows by name a lot of people in our district, and that makes a difference. All I can say is that I'm proud to be a resident, especially now of Reddington Shores.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dad.
Anyone else? All right, hearing none, the next workshop meeting is Wednesday, September 27th at 6 p.m. A regular meeting is Wednesday, October 11th, 2017, 6 p.m. There's a possibility that Commissioner Henderson and myself will be at Shores and Beaches down in Fort Lauderdale, which is a very important meeting this year because of the refusal of people signing their easements so that we could get sand on the beach. For those of you that hadn't heard, we're getting none this year due to refusal of signage. We had 30 to get, I think, and we got 4. So for that reason, it will be 5 years from now, probably, before they look at the next beach renourishment. Hopefully people will change their mind. This storm could have made a huge difference in how much beach we had out there, but we lucked out. So I guess with 3, the meeting.
A quorum is 3, so if 2 of you are gone, as long as the other 3 are all here, you can have a meeting. Or if you wish to change a meeting date, you can do that when you find out, and just, as long as it's noted more than 3 days in advance.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening in Fort Lauderdale right now, so I don't know. So we'll take a look at that and make an announcement on it. With that, this meeting is adjourned.